And a very happy Wednesday to you at 12:08 in the West. It's the John Phillips Show. Randy Wang has the week off. He'll be back with us on Monday. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. And I am told that the phone lines are working today as they were knocked out all day yesterday, part of the day on Monday, part of the day on Thursday, and I don't know about Friday because we didn't take any calls. But I'm told they're working, and if they're not, as soon as the show is over, I'm going to get on that 1-900 number, and I'm going to call Tyler Henry, and I'm going to have a seance with Marconi, and I'm going to find out what I did to offend him. And we're going to work it out that way. But fingers crossed, I think we're okay today. Please, Lord, don't do this to me another day. Oh, there we go. I don't know what I did wrong. I've done everything that I've been supposed to do. I pay most of my taxes. I vote. I show up on jury duty whenever you call me, which is every 365 days on the dot. When I ride on an airplane, I don't take my shoes off. I do everything I'm supposed to do. Please, for the love of God, make sure the phone lines work today. Amen. All right, now that we've started today's show with a prayer, let's start out talking about one of the changes that was in the federal tax bill. That was the no tax on tips. And if I were a bartender, or I cut hair for a living, or I were a waiter, I would be over the moon happy about that. Because that change means I no longer have to lie to the IRS. And that would be a huge weight off my shoulders. I would welcome the news, I would be happy about it, and I would hope and pray that that was never changed. However, given the fact that I don't work in a profession that operates on tips, I don't understand why people pay different tax rates for different services that they provide. Whether it be in the service industry where you rely on tips and you don't have to pay taxes on part of your income, or even if you work at something like, a hedge fund. Those guys pay different rates on the money they make than what I pay as a radio host. And I've never understood why that's the case. They move money around for a living. I entertain people when they sit in traffic. We do different things, but that's the way it works in a division of labor economy. I don't understand why I pay a different rate than them. That being said, now no tax on tips is the law of the land. And tipping is something that has always interested me because I never quite understood why you tip certain people and don't tip others. Have you noticed this? You're supposed to tip the person who cuts your hair, but you don't tip the person that cleans your teeth. They're both providing services. You go to them on a regular basis. You get to know the person. You have a relationship with the person. But if you were going to offer a tip to the person who cleans your teeth, I would imagine that they would be offended. If you don't tip the person that cuts your hair, I would imagine that they would be offended too. You go to a bar at the airport. You order a drink. They expect a tip. If you don't tip them, they're going to give you the rather eye. But then you get on the airplane and you order the same scotch on the rocks, and the flight attendant brings you your drink. You're not supposed to tip the flight attendant. They're both doing the same thing, serving you a Doers on the rocks, but one you're supposed to tip, the other you're not supposed to tip. Besides that, tipping has also gotten completely out of control. And I know I'm Scottish by heritage on my dad's side, and so that would lead you to believe that I'm the cheapest person on planet Earth, and a certain element of that is true. However, when it comes to tipping, I'm relatively generous, especially if it's at a place that I go to all the time. Go to a neighborhood restaurant, go to a neighborhood bar, you have the same people waiting on you all the time. You want to take care of them. They take care of you, You take care of them. That's the relationship. In return, you get better service. Oh, I've got a tipping tip for you, so to speak. Whenever I go on the cruise ship, before I go on the cruise ship, I go to the bank and I order brand spanking new $2 bills. And every time I order a drink, I put a $2 bill down on the bar, and the bartenders are the happiest people on planet Earth because not only did they get a tip, they have a souvenir, and you get remembered as the $2 bill guy. They're happy, I'm happy. I get better service, they get a smile on their face. I know they say money can't buy happiness, but give me $100 and watch me smile. Given the fact that I, generally speaking, am a generous tipper, I think the overall umbrella of where you're supposed to tip has gotten completely out of control. You're supposed to tip your waiters, you're supposed to tip your bartenders, you're supposed to tip the person who cuts your hair, or the person who carries your bags, or the person who parks your car. But now, all of a sudden, you're supposed to tip all of these other people too. And I don't know when we started doing that. I went to a Hudson Books at LAX because I wanted to buy a newspaper and I wanted to buy a Twix bar. And you know what happens when you go to a Hudson Books at the airport. It's like, I don't know, what the 7-Elevens do after an earthquake. It's price gouging central. A Twix bar that would cost you $2 at Walmart costs you $8 at the airport because they can. The LA Times that would cost you mere pennies in your neighborhood costs you a fortune at the airport. They charge you a fortune because they have a monopoly. They can. You can't bring certain things like liquids in. If you could bring your own soda in, you wouldn't have to buy it from them. But because you have to buy it from them, they can charge you whatever it is that they want. But you know that's the deal. You know if you purchase something at the airport, it's going to be crazy expensive because that's how airports work. But what was different this last time was that when I was checking out for my overpriced newspaper and my overpriced Twix bar, I was then prompted on the screen asking me what percentage I would like to tip the attendant. And you go, wait a minute. They didn't bring me the Twix bar. They didn't bring me the newspaper. I had to go out and I had to find it on my own. I know I'm overpaying for these items by a huge percentage. I had to wait in a line and stand in a line before I could pay for these items. The person wasn't particularly pleasant or provide any great customer service. They just rang it up and charged me. Why is it that I'm supposed to tip them? And then when I looked at the screen and saw the percentages that they were asking for, it was even more outrageous. It was 20, 22, or 25% tip on top of what I'm already paying for my overpriced items. I thought that was unreal. When I was in Las Vegas last week, or I guess it would be 2 weeks ago at this point, at my hotel, if you wanted to use the Keurig K-Cups in your room to have your morning coffee, you had to pay for those. They are not complimentary on the Strip. It is something that is a service that requires you to be charged. And so I figured, okay, if I'm going to pay for coffee, I might as well just go get it from the Starbucks downstairs so that the coffee is good and it's not just hotel room coffee. If you're paying for it, why not? So I go down to the Starbucks, and the coffee at the Starbucks was something like $11. $11 for a coffee at the Starbucks. The line wrapped around the lobby. It was a 20-minute wait. The person who took the order, again, not particularly friendly, just took the order, got my name wrong. I had to repeat it like 5 times, and then I had to go wait in another part of the Starbucks for my order to be completed, and then for me to pick it up and enjoy it. Same thing. When you pay for your coffee, what percentage would you like to tip? and it gives you the outrageous percentages. And then today was the last straw. Today was the day that just took the cake. I get a text message from my nephew, who is a high school athlete, and his sports team is raising money for their fundraiser, and they send you a text message, and you click on the link, and then you go to the web page, and you put in your credit card information, and you decide how much money you're going to give the sports team for their annual fundraiser. So I give the sports team, I don't know, $50 this morning, and it's cross country. How much money does a cross country team need? What do they need besides shoes? A guy with a spear chasing them so they have motivation to run faster and farther? I don't know. But I decided to give him $50. After I put the credit card information in there and was ready to check out, I then got a pop-up on my screen saying, "How much would you like to tip?" And I thought to myself, how much would I like to tip? I'm not even dealing with a human being here. I'm dealing with a computer. And I did all the work to provide a donation for a service I'm not even getting. I'm just giving a donation to a sports team at a high school. Why in the world would I need to tip anyone, especially a computer? And the suggested tip was $9 on a $50 donation. And it said, if you want to change the tip, click here. And when you click on the link to change the tip, it acted as if you wanted to give more than $9. Well, here's 9 as an option, and here's a number that's greater than 9, and here's a number that's greater than that. What would you like to tip? So you have to tip other, or click other, to get out of that screen. And I clicked other, and I wrote 0 in. And then you get another pop-up. Are you sure you don't want to tip? We rely on these tips to meet our operational expenses. And I thought to myself, they're trying to guilt you into giving $9 more. And they're trying to guilt you into giving $9 more by making you feel guilty about not tipping a computer for providing a service that you would use whenever you check out at Amazon or any other place. However, since the prompt was there, I would imagine that some people take the bait. Some people said, well, I don't want my relative to know that I didn't tip the computer when I was giving a donation to the sports team. That would be a bad look. And I think what they do is they try to apply societal pressure, and they try to make you feel like you're doing something wrong or immoral or you're cheating someone if you don't tip in a circumstance that doesn't really warrant a tip. I am all for tipping generously if the services provided warrant a tip. However, I'm not tipping a computer. I'm just not. What's next? You're supposed to tip the kiosk at McDonald's? Supposed to tip the kiosk when you're exiting a parking facility where there's no human being there? Is that where we're headed? When AI starts changing the way that we live and we deal with robots on a greater basis, are we supposed to tip the robots too? I don't know where this stops. So I'd like to hear from you at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Do you think society has gone mad with the tipping? I do. And earlier today, when a computer asked me to tip it, I thought to myself, we've officially jumped the shark. What say you at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222? Your call's coming up right here on The John Phillips Show. It's The John Phillips Show. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And if you'd like to listen to the podcast edition of this program, that's easy to do. All you have to do is whip out your handy-dandy smartphone and subscribe to The John Phillips Show. All of the episodes will be downloaded automatically to your phone, and you don't even have to tip that computer. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. Tipping is out of control. I am asked to tip everyone and everything, including computers, whenever they have the opportunity. Earlier this morning, I made a donation to my nephew's high school cross-country team, and the computer that I was using asked me for a tip at the end of the process. I said no. The computer said, "Are you sure? We rely on these tips for our operational expenses." That is officially one step too far. What say you at 800-222-5222? 1-800-222-5222. Let's go to Ray in Fairfield. Ray, hello.
Yes, sir.
Hi there.
Do you know where tips came from?
No.
Way back, I don't know what year, you used to go into a pub and tip prior to getting your food to get better service, because it stands for to ensure promptness.
I did not know that, but that makes a whole lot of sense, because if you tip before you receive the service, you're likely to receive better service.
There you go, and you're right. It's way out of hand.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. 800-222-5222 is the number. 1-800-222-5222. More of your calls coming up right here on The John Phillips Show. It's The John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. Has tipping gotten out of control? Let's begin with Roxanne in West Hollywood. Roxanne, hello.
Hi, I just want to say, what's next? The self-check in the grocery store or the grocery store clerks? But something happened to me that kind of shocked me. I've been using the same tax preparer for the last 6 years. And this past, I brought my taxes in early, the end of February, and she didn't get them done until the day before the due, which is in April. And she charged me $75 for a tip.
You got to be kidding.
I'm not freaking kidding, and it shocks me because I have my own business as well. She does it out of her house, and that made me raise my prices because people don't tip me. I'm a dog trainer. I have a dog boarding and daycare facility, and people don't tip me, and so I just thought, I'm going to raise my prices. I mean, enough is enough here.
So wait, so it wasn't an optional category where you could write in a number if you wanted to tip on top. It was just a $75 tip that was added on your bill?
Absolutely. It shocked me. And I think she did it because everybody else is. That's what I think.
Did you ask her about it?
I didn't. I should have. I just was in a rush and a hurry, as I normally am, trying to get from point A to point B. And I just thought to myself, okay, she's going to do this, then I'm going to raise my prices. And,
It's an uncomfortable conversation to have, but boy, is that presumptuous to assume that you want to tip her and to assume that you want to tip her a certain amount and to put it on your bill without your consent.
No kidding. And, since you say that to me, I think next time I am going to talk to her about it and see what's up, because I was really shocked. I mean, who does that?
It's unbelievably rude.
It's rude, and I don't do that to my clients. I wouldn't think of it, You know what
else I've noticed, too? They're not just sneaky with things like that. Have you ever gone to a restaurant where they add the gratuity on the bill, where they just build in a certain percentage, they put it on your bill, and then they have a line below that where you can leave an additional tip? Well, whenever I check out of a restaurant, I assume that most restaurants don't add on a tip or a service fee and that you're supposed to leave it on the bill. And I bet you anything those restaurants that do that, those servers get tipped double.
I'm sure. Yeah, it's just appalling, and I don't know. I think it's expensive enough to live here in L.A., and to be doing that is just, it's unconscionable. It really is. I'm sorry. Maybe other people in your audience does that. I don't. With my clients, I wouldn't think of it. And people do tip me, but not everybody, and I'm okay with that. So that's all
right.
I wanted to say.
Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Let's go to Dawn in Danville. Dawn, hello.
Hey, how you doing? Hey,
Good.
I just got through driving through a self-serve car wash. I was half expecting you to ask me for a tip. But, so I don't tip anymore. At Starbucks, I just don't do it. I've had it. I'm not going to give you $1 for a $3 cup of coffee. I just figured that's your job. Hand me the coffee. I tip restaurants, bartenders. I'll give a little bonus to my housekeeper at the end of the year, and that's it. So I just, but I got to tell you a great story. We went to East Africa on a safari last year, and the tipping is crazy. I mean, it's everybody. It's the porters. It's the guides. I will tell you, 4 of us went. And I paid for the trip, so I kind of handle all the tipping. I think it was $600 in tips for about a 10-day stay there. So it was pretty crazy.
Now, culturally, if you're not supposed to tip someone over here, but over there you are, and you don't tip them because you don't think you're supposed to, do they tell you?
No, they expect it. The tour people, we set the tip, they give you like a tipping guide. They say, here's what your guide should get. Here's what your porters at the airport should get. Here's what the guys that do this and that should get. But so they do expect it. And, my view is, hey, that $5 tip just bought the guy's kids some school clothes, so I didn't have a problem with it. But it's crazy. But they do one thing that I wish they'd do over here, and I thought it was a great idea. When you go to the hotel, you don't tip anybody. You don't tip the bartenders, the housekeepers, the guys who grab your bags. At the end of your stay, when you check out, they have a thing called a staff box. And you throw $50 in there or whatever, $25 a day, whatever you feel right about. And then they distribute that themselves. So I think that's a great idea. So I didn't have to worry about any individual or any. I just threw money in the staff box, and all these hotels have that. So I think that's a great idea if they wanted to, do that here.
They do that at my car wash, where if you give the guy a tip, they just take the money and they put it in the box.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to do it. But yeah, I just can't. I'm just these little small things. I do restaurants, bars, maybe my haircut, and that's it. And maybe do a little bonus to my housekeeper in the year. And the rest, I'm just not giving these 25, 30%. I've seen places that want 30% as a they suggest. So it's gotten crazy. The other thing I've seen in restaurants, they do this service charge, which is not a tip. It's just an extra charge. And I remember talking to the manager. I said, well, what is this? Is this go to their health care or something? He goes, no, it's just an extra charge. I said, well, why don't you just raise your prices? I said, well, we just want to charge what we want to charge, but we want to throw this little service fee on there. I go, well, and I talked to the waiter, and he says, he goes, no, this doesn't go to us. It goes to the restaurant. So I thought that was kind of a weird one.
Well, that's completely outrageous. That's theft. If the charge is mandatory, then it's part of the fee, part of the cost.
It is. It's a mandatory charge. They say that if you read the fine print, they put it in effect during COVID because they said, well, we're having to do more all these different extra costs that we incurred because of COVID. And I kind of said, okay, I kind of get it. Then why don't you take it off when COVID's gone, dude? But
well, remember at the hotels,
these restaurants that we go to,
they said that they couldn't clean your room every single day due to COVID. They could only do it every other day. Well, COVID's gone, and they still don't clean your room every day. They do it every other day.
That is true. Anyway, that's my tipping story. But, yeah, the Africa thing was kind of interesting. But I don't feel bad about it there because, like I said, they need it. They could use the money. so it was okay. But it was basically every single person you came in contact with, you handed them $5 or a couple bucks. We went to a market, like a central, like one of these markets where you could buy produce and stuff. And a guy met us there. He was going to take us through the market, kind of show us around. The end of the, you give him $5 at the end of the day. That's just sort of everybody you come in contact there with is sort of the expectation is you're going to hand them a few bucks. But at the end of the day, it all adds up.
It does. Thank you for the call, sir. I appreciate it. Let's go to Kevin in Upland. Kevin, hello.
Hello. Hey, I heard you complaining about that computer option of $9, and then you push whatever, and it says $9 or more. I'm all for that if they have an FU button or a middle finger icon, because that's what I would put on there. That's what I would select.
The middle finger emoji. I love it. Thank you for the call, sir.
Yeah.
Let's go to Max in Tijuana. Max, hello.
Yes, tipping is completely out of control. In Japan, we should adopt the Japanese model. The chefs in Japan will be insulted if you try to tip them. The Japanese also frown upon panhandling. God bless the Japanese. They don't they frown upon panhandling. Now, tipping probably began when King Henry was beheading a lot of people, and you tipped the executioner. And I often wondered, why would you tip the executioner if he's about to chop your head off? Well, you want him to do a good job. That's why. Because you don't want any lingering residue. And to the dog walker who paid the $75, don't do that, folks. You're just encouraging bad behavior. Don't reward bad behavior. In Europe, in the 1990s, I went to Germany, and the tip was automatically placed on the restaurant receipt. I resented that because what if the guy gave lousy service? I'm supposed to tip on lousy service? And it's just totally out of control here. Remember, please don't reward bad behavior. Thanks for listening.
Now, thank you for the call, sir. I wonder if the executioner handed the person a computer and it said, you want to tip 22, 25, or 30% before I kill you. Definitely go for 30 in that circumstance. Let's go to Greg in Irvine. Greg, hello.
Hi, John. Totally agree with your opinion on tipping.
It just doesn't seem to end. The calls for tipping, it seems to get the tent seems to get bigger and bigger and bigger every year.
I just say no. I just look at them, I smile, I say no.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Lorraine in Livermore. Lorraine, hello.
Hi. I was just wondering if you would consider the fact that being that tips are now no longer taxed, that it is a sneaky way to get tax-free income. It's classified as a tip, so it's not taxed. And that would encourage quite a bit of proliferation, don't you think?
Well, if you don't pay taxes on tips, if you tip $1 on every drink, you're really tipping what, $1.30?
Approximately. And so that would encourage all of these new demands for tips. And the $75 for dog grooming, my gosh, that's quite a bit of free income.
No. That wasn't who was charging the tip. The dog groomer was the one that called in. The one who was charging her $75 was her tax preparer. Her tax preparer added on a $75 tip on the bill without her knowledge or consent. That would
still apply no matter who charges the tip. That is income that is not taxed, right?
That is true. That is very true.
And encourage proliferation.
That's a very good point. If they raise their fees, they have to pay taxes on it. If they add on a tip, that's tax-free money. Great catch. Thank you for the call. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. More of your calls coming up right here on The John Phillips Show. It's The John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. The Fix California Hour is coming up after the news at 1. We're going to check in with Dan Walters at Cal Matters, and then we're going to go right back to the phone. So if you're on hold and I don't get to you this hour, we're going back to the phones after we check in with Dan Walters next hour. Has tipping gotten out of control? 800-222-5222 is the number. Let's go to Michelle in Newport Beach. Michelle, hello.
Hey, John. My story is about taking my daughter wedding dress shopping. We settled on a dress. It was $8,000. It was a beautiful dress. We're at a very fancy bridal shop. I went to pay with my credit card, and my daughter lives in that area, and I didn't want to embarrass her. And when the charge came up, it offered 22, 25, and 30% tip. So I tipped 25% without really giving it much thought. And I walked away and I said, Haley, do you understand that we just tipped 25%? And she goes, I didn't want to embarrass you, so I didn't want to not let. She goes, that is the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard. They asked for a tip on an $8,000 wedding dress that they already make a commission on.
That's outrageous. And you know what?
Outrageous.
I think what they intended on doing was they intended on knowing, or they knew that the parent would pay for it with the girl standing there, and they wanted to put you in an awful position so you would embarrass her by taking that off the bill. I think they tried to bully you into paying that fee.
Agreed. And well, the good news is my daughter turned it back on me and went, hey, we're not doing this. We're going back. We're canceling it, and we'll rerun the charge. We can give that girl an extra $100 if you want, but that's it. So good on my daughter, thank God. Yeah, 25%. And the options were 22, 25, and 30% tip. Tip on an $8,000 wedding dress. I was stunned.
It seems to be common, by the way, for those to be the numbers. It used to be 15, 18, or 20%, and now they're just going for the gold.
I'm so old, I remember 10, 15, and 20.
All right, thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Let's go to Jonathan in Santa Clarita. Jonathan, hello. All right, let's go to Linda in Burbank. Linda, welcome.
John, when you were talking about earlier how the ones that served you, that were rude to you, and you didn't leave them a tip or something like that, here's something better than not leaving them a tip. Leave them 2 cents. That is worse than not leaving a tip.
That's just the old middle finger, huh?
Yeah. I used to be a barmaid, and I used to be a hairdresser, but it was more so, at bars. When if I would go to a bar, if there was a bartender that really got on my nerves, I could think of just one or two. I'd leave them 2 cents.
And what type of reaction did you typically get?
I don't recall. It was so long ago. It was like 40-something years ago.
Just leave 2 pennies on the bar and say, well, I thought you were a fan of Abe Lincoln.
Yeah, just leave them 2 pennies. They'll get the message.
All right. Thank you for the call. Let's go to Bruce. Bruce, welcome.
How are you? Love your
Good.
show.
Thank you.
My question is, and I'd like to have a suggestion, how much do you think I should pay my masseuse or the massage parlor I go to? Those Asian massage parlors? What's a recommended tip for that?
Well, if it's the one by the airport, Yum Yum number 2, I think they have a menu.
Okay. Gotcha. Thanks, John.
Thank you for the call. That conversation caused me to think of my favorite Disney movies. You know why I like Disney movies? They always have a happy ending. All right, we got 2 more hours coming up on the John Phillips Show. The Fix California Hour is next. If you're on hold, stay there. We'll get to more calls as well. It's the John Phillips Show.